Delta Plan also mentions another approach, and that's what Joseph Byrne, Chairman of the State Water Commission, is here to report on. And it's the recommendation is based on the observed success of local projects that have actually permitted, funded, and built storage, such as an expansion of Los Vaqueros, the completion of Diamond Valley Lake in Southern California. So, Joseph, thank you for flying up from Los Angeles this morning to join us, and tell us what the Water Commission is up to on storage.
There we go. Well, good morning, and thank you for having me very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm personally excited about the first meeting of the group and the collaborations that are going on and have been going on. I'm going to start by giving just a little bit of a background on the Water Commission, because it's not maybe as prevalent in people's minds as other bodies of the state, and I think it's also relevant for the discussion of how we've been collaborating with the Delta Stewardship Council on the issue of storage. So I think, as many of you know, the Water Commission was reconstituted back in 2009 with the water package, and we have a full 9 members. Our statutory responsibilities include advising the director on all issues within the director's jurisdiction. We have responsibility for doing an annual review of the state water project and reporting to the legislature on that. We're the eminent domain body for the department, not necessarily a task that I'm sure a lot of you would like to have if we're condemning properties in certain areas. We also we approve all regulations that DWR adopts. Most recently, we approved regulations on processed water. We did one on ag water measurement devices. We've also, interestingly, we name state water project facilities. I don't know if there's been one that's been named in years and years until just recently when we named the Thermalito power plant after Judge Roby. So I'm not sure if that's a bad omen that the place had a bad fire and was burned down within months after naming it. But it's good to know that it's going to be rebuilt, which is
with
nice
a new sign
for Judge Roby. Prominently displaying Judge Roby's name. Okay, but I think the primary reason why we were reconstituted was the water bond, and in the water bond, there's a section of the water bond that doesn't necessarily, it says water storage all over it, but interestingly it says statewide system operational improvements. I think it's been a focus of ours, and there's $3 billion in the current form. I know there's a variety of discussions going on as to whether that is going to change and whether certain criteria that we've been looking at will change, but we've really been kind of wrestling with how to look at that issue. And in the water bond, it essentially requires us to establish a competitive grant process for $3 billion for water storage projects, but it's for public benefits associated with water storage projects. The public benefits are ecosystem restoration, water quality improvements, flood control, recreation, and emergency response. So we've been looking at those areas quite considerably, and interestingly, 50% of all of our funding for public benefits needs to go towards Delta ecosystem improvements, or ecosystem improvements, of which is the Delta or its tributaries. So we're very much involved in looking at the Delta, and very much, by the nature of what it is we're required to do under the existing bond, very much focused on the co-equal goals, as that's really a critical component of what it is that we're doing. So we have been working the last 4 years on developing a regulation, and we have a draft that we've circulated. We've been working under the assumption that there is going to be a bond at some point. It's going to contain some water for storage, and it's likely going to contain some of the criteria which is in the current form of the bond, which I hope to be the case. And we've been trying to be proactive and be ready to have something ready to go so that when the bond actually does pass, we'll be in a position to move quickly and move forward in a quick fashion. So we have a draft that's out. We've been working with some consultants and circulated. We haven't had massive attendance at our meetings, but we've gotten some good input from people, and it's something that I'm sure will get a lot more attention if the bond, in fact, does pass. Now, with regards to the overall commission, I did want to make one point that as we've been talking about storage, and we're also a public forum for the department as well, and we've had a lot of folks come in particular on storage, we've really been kind of focused on what are the types of projects that we ultimately may fund as we've been trying to evaluate what do public benefits mean, how do you quantify ecosystem improvements, how do you quantify recreational improvements, if you do a project here and down 400 miles away, does that count towards a project? But I think we've really been focused on kind of the types of projects I think commissioners are focused on is operational improvements as well. What can we do that can really add value to the whole system, that could increase collaboration and ultimately make the system flow in a much better and more efficient fashion. So it brings me to Chair Fiorini came to us, which was great, and it is Delta Plan Recommendation WR-R14, which is identify near-term opportunities for storage, use, and water transfer projects. And we had a meeting, and it was great that Chair Fiorini came, and we ultimately decided that rather than just look at the 4 CalFed projects, which is not under the statutory, we're not restricted to that in the statute as well, but that we would go out and try to get a sense from the community as to what other local and regional projects exist. So Delta Stewardship Council and us and DWR have been collaborating with Aqua, and we've sent a survey out through Aqua to its membership, and we've been collecting responses over the course of the last, I think, 3 or 4 months, and we're still anticipating getting a number back. We have received over 50 responses, and I think it's actually over 50 projects, and some of them range from the size of sites and large, million acre-feet projects on the Feather River to much smaller projects. There's groundwater recharge projects. There's your basic off-stream, and there's no off-stream storage, groundwater quality issues. So it really has run the gamut, and I think we're really kind of just getting going on it. And the hope is that the information is of value to us as a water commission as we are evaluating what projects are out there to give us a better understanding of all of that and how it all might fit together as the pieces of the puzzle, but as well to make it the information that's valuable for the council and for other agencies so that people are aware of what is really out there. So I think it's been very eye-opening for us, and I think hopefully as we get information, as we dig a little deeper into it, we can get a better sense of some of those communities and also how those projects might have regional benefits. So that is pretty much it in the interest of somewhat brevity, but I do appreciate having me here. I'm happy to answer your questions about.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions of Joe? This survey will lead to an inventory, a prospect list, if you will, of potential storage projects that I think many of which will have a statewide interest. And it's our hope that in addition to the larger projects that we can achieve millions of acre feet of below ground and above ground storage as a result of this process. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you for coming today. And in the interest of brevity, we'll move right along to the next item.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.